Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. Just waiting for someone else to join you, to join us rather. So waiting for Sarah to join us in a minute. We've got Tim on who is our moderator, who's having a look at the comment window for us. So Tim is represented by the Computing at School logo today. Hopefully everyone has had a lovely day, and thank you for joining us, taking a break from the tennis and the football. There's quite a lot going on today. I can see Sarah's just joined us. She'll be joining the video in a minute. Okay, so how is everyone today? If you can just pop something into the comment window, that would be really great. Thanks. Sarah, hi. Hi. So welcome everyone.
How are you?
Just made it. I am well. I know you've had a busy day at school. We're just saying hello to everyone who's joined us today and thanking them for joining us. And I know it's a busy sporting afternoon with lots of tennis and football, and there's probably lots more going on. So thank you very much. So I will now begin this Instagram live session on behalf of Computing at School and introduce myself formally. So welcome to the CAS Virtual Showcase 2021 and this Instagram live session on top tips for trainee teachers. Really doesn't matter whether you're a primary teacher or a secondary teacher, it's all about teaching and that being new to teaching. So I'm Beverly Clark and I'm the Computing at School National Community Manager. And I'm also your host for this session, and I'll be speaking with Sarah shortly. We are both very passionate about helping those to develop their early careers and to help them along their teaching journey. And we'll talk quite a lot about that and share based upon our experiences of being trainees and also of supporting others. And hi everyone who's joining us, welcome. Okay, so before I get started, please do feel free to follow myself and Sarah after this session, and also of course the Computing at School main account for updates and general teaching information. If you are sharing this, please use the hashtag CASVirtual21 when spreading the word, and feel free to ask any questions you'd like through the comment window. I think I've mentioned already that Tim is behind the logo in the comment window, and he'll be answering questions and also putting a few links in during this session. So let me introduce Sarah to you. Sarah Trickey is head of faculty of a computing faculty, business and media at a secondary school in Luton. She's also the NQT induction tutor and oversees all the trainee teachers from 3 different training providers at the school. Sarah is also a fellow of the Chartered College of Teaching and a member of the CAS board. Sarah, welcome and thank you. I don't know if you'd like to add anything to that.
No, I think you managed to encompass all of my hats there in my teaching career very succinctly, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. And I know you've had a busy day today with a very special visit, which you probably can't say anything about, but that is part of the pressures of teaching.
Indeed it is.
Okay,
yes.
So hopefully, our listeners can guess what that special visit was. Okay, so can you share with our listeners and viewers what led you to get involved with trainee teachers, please?
So I think throughout the vast majority of my career, I've worked with trainee teachers in some way, shape or form. I first became a subject lead back in 2004. That's a long time ago now. And throughout that time,
Sarah, I've just lost your sound.
Sorry, that's because someone's trying to call me on my phone. So I've worked with lots of different training providers across the years, from PGCE to SKIT to Schools Direct, to all manner of different training teachers. The graduate teacher program at one point I worked with too. So yeah, I started off as a mentor. supporting a PGCE student in computer science and IT. I then became the course lead for a computer science skits course when I worked over in Essex. Their course lead had fallen ill and they had a vacancy, and so I stepped in and did a temporary post for a couple of years there, and I've worked as a senior mentor for the University of East London with their trainee teachers. And now at the school that I'm at the moment, I am the induction lead and the ITT coordinator. So I am very busy with 3 Teach First, 4 skit training, so salaried route trainee teachers, 2 who are non-salaried, 2 assessment only route teachers, and 4 aspiring teachers, and then also the NQTs this year. So I've got about 20 colleagues that I'm supporting in their early career at the moment.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's impressive. And, you know, I mean, I've known you for a while now, and your passion in this area is certainly felt. Now, if we could take you back to when you were a trainee teacher, can you talk about any of your experiences of, say, lesson observation?
Yeah, lots still vivid memories. There's quite a fair few that sort of taught me how not to do it. I would argue that the induction lead where I wasn't as supportive as I would have hoped them to be. But I definitely remember some of the comments that stick and how feedback was given to me, and I try my hardest not to impart feedback in that way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I will share an experience of mine. So computing is a very interesting subject, and we have very specific classroom layouts in certain schools. And I do remember, you know, my deputy head teacher observing me and then said to me afterwards, how do you know your learners your pupils were engaged? And I said, well, they were all really quiet. I mean, surely that's engagement. And he said, well, how many faces did you actually see? And then it occurred to me at that point that because of the layout, the learners they were facing away from me. So some had sort of turned on the side to look at me, and others were just, you know, they were quiet, scribbling on, you know, or just, you know, doing something else. That does not equal engagement. So it really made me think about how do we know our learners are engaged? So, you know, giving clear instructions like turn around and face me, or if you're using classroom management software, you could perhaps sort of send what's on the main screen to their computers and just start thinking about engagement. So that's, you know, one of the top tips that I learned very early on, you know, the first sort of 6 weeks when I was being observed, and it's always stuck with me. So I don't know if you've got anything else like that you may wish to share.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm started off as a business teacher, so that's actually my qualification. I'm a trained business teacher, business and IT, and then I've migrated over the years to computer science because, as everybody in this session will know, computer science is far better than any other subject. It's the one that everybody needs to do. But when you're in a standard classroom like I'm in now, I mean, you can't see the other side of my screen, but I've got standard rows of tables. This is far easier to assess engagement. You can easily see what students are doing at all times. Now, I have 3 different labs where I am at the moment, so 3 different rooms, 3 different environments for trainees to experience, and I like to put them in all the different ones so that they get those different ideas. My IT lab, as it's known, is the palatial suite. So we have a massive, humongous room, computers around the outside, and then 6 big round tables in the middle. That's really easy. I can see at a glance who's on what. I can see all the computer screens. When we're wanting full engagement, the students return to tables, and that makes life a lot easier. So when you've got a combined room, this is the dream. You have a multi-purpose computer lab, desks for working, for written work, and then your computers for practical work. But the reality is, in most schools, you have an M shape or lines where the screens are like this, and you're peering over the top trying to see the students. Now, that's where you need to use your classroom management software, or you need to be walking around the room. Challenging in COVID times, I know, but what I like to do, my tip there would be, my top tip for this is invest in a clicker for your presentation. If your screen is at the front and the students are facing the front of the screen, you stand at the back and click with your clicker from the back of the classroom, so you can see what the students are seeing and you can see your screen from there. Because, as you quite rightly said, busyness doesn't always equate to engagement, and there's always a child tapping or clicking their mouse, playing Snake or they're playing Pac-Man or something like that. Where you're not able to do those sorts of things, my advice is to suggest to students to fold their arms and turn around in their chairs to face you. So then they can't physically touch the computers in front of them. I think students have this fear almost that their mouse is going to get up and run away, or their keyboard will suddenly combust because they're not able to let go of it. And that's my biggest bugbear. So I do fold your arms and turn around, and until they can learn to let things go. And it's about that consistency, making sure you keep to those routines and rituals. But yeah, there's lots of, another good tip. If your school is not a school where there's a requirement for a set lesson format on the screen at the front, broadcast all the screens. We use Impero here. You can do it with RM tutor control, an AB tutor control. Show all of the screens on your screen at the front. That way you can see and everybody else can see what everybody is looking at, and it does prevent students from detracting from what they should be doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I've used those and I can definitely highly recommend them. And, you know, so also having sort of non-verbal cues, so you don't have to interrupt the lesson to say, X, please turn around, you know, so it may just be, you know, a raised eyebrow, so I prefer to raising my right eyebrow, or sometimes
the students call it auto brow. It raises by itself. I can't, when I think about it, I can't actually do it.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
My students are more concerned when I'm quiet. So if I just stop, they all wonder what's going on because I talk all the time. You'll know. Sorry to everybody else. And Tim and Beverly already know that I can talk the hind legs off a donkey. But they know that if I'm not talking, then there's a problem. So then they're like, am I the problem? No, they look around and then they tell their friends. So getting those cues, the non-verbal cues, are everything. You should never be raising your voice in a classroom ever. That's another top tip, I suppose, for later.
I agree, because I mean, I'm fairly quiet. I'm not the loudest person. And in my early years, I thought, I'm not going to make it as a teacher because, you know, I don't have this voice you can hear from one end of the school to the next. And that is not true. It is all about consistency and those cues, and definitely just standing still, or, you know, communicating. I'm really not happy at the moment. This is what I need from you. We'll talk a bit more about language. Now, one of the things I want to talk to you about, Sarah, is we've used the word NQT, so newly qualified teacher. I'm not aware of the acronym, rather, but increasingly we're hearing ECF. Could you tell us what that is and how that came to be, please?
Yes, so the ECF, for those of you who are trainees now, who are beginning your teaching career in September, you will not be an NQT. You will not be a newly qualified teacher. You will be an ECT, an early career teacher. And you will be supported by the ECF, the Early Career Framework. And this is an entitlement to ongoing professional development that you have as an early career colleague. I'll be talking about this in my BCS Scholars webinar in a few weeks' time, but the number of teachers that leave the profession within the first and second years is actually quite startling, and a lot of them cite burnout or a lack of support as the reason for leaving. And as a result of this, there was an overhaul of the NQT system, the induction process. Training is ratified, it's assessed by Ofsted, there's a clear curriculum and there are standards you have to meet, but there wasn't really anything in place holistically that was standardized across the whole country, and that's where the ECF comes in. So you are, as an ECT, entitled to an 80% timetable, and the rest of that time is protected. You should not be doing cover. Do not believe anybody when they say you should be doing, you're allowed to do cover, you're a teacher now. No, certainly not in the first term until September, and now under the ECF, realistically not in the first year. You shouldn't be doing anything that takes you over 80% of a teacher's timetable. In your second year, you have 85%. So the difference, one of the big differences, is now a 2-year induction process rather than 1, and you get that continuing support weekly in the first year, fortnightly in the second year. I'm really excited to be introducing this, and a little apprehensive because it's quite a big piece of work to make sure it's implemented, but we've been piloting bits of it over this year with the trainees that I've got. Very much use them a little bit as guinea pigs. What do you think of this? How would you do that? And getting their feedback. It's a good thing. You won't have to produce a formal portfolio of evidence. No one should be asking you to do that, for example. There are 2 formal assessment points rather than 3 a year. So it's 1 at the end of the first year, 1 at the end of the second year, and you have summative and ongoing. Formative and summative. I always get those confused. And I'm a teacher of
formative and summative. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a teacher of 18 years. But you have ongoing assessment throughout with your mentor and your induction lead, but there's only 1 formal assessment point, and that's a meeting where we holistically look at you as a teacher and how you progressed as a teacher in your career. So have a
very
look.
Supportive. It's a supportive framework, and I think very, very welcome. A couple of things you touched on there, and it was around sort of burnout and workload, because these are 2 of the things that anyone new to teaching, sometimes, you know, we do hear a lot about this. And if you get any tips on managing these 2 and how you've dealt with this, and then I'll share some of how I manage this.
I'm going to need a prop for this one. Excuse me for a bit of on my chair. Because it wasn't on my desk. The planner. Find Absolutely. A planner. This is on my stories if anyone wants to read it. But the planner is your go-to place. Now, some schools provide you with a planner. I like to buy my own ones because I like one that's purple. If you've not already guessed from my logo and everything on my page, purple is my thing. But this one allows me to, it's got space for notes, it's got space for lesson planning. Plan. That's the key. You need to be planning. You can't plan for every eventuality. There will always be hinge points in lessons, and I'm not talking about planning your lessons to the nth degree. You know what topic you're doing, you know what lesson you will have a well-planned lesson that might need to be adapted. What I'm talking about is planning your time outside of your teaching contact time. Where it says PPA on your timetable, what are you going to do during that PPA? Are you going to be marking, for example? Are you going to be reviewing a lesson? Are you going to be reflecting or evaluating on what you've done so far? Is that the opportunity you're going to take to go and do a learning walk and see more experienced colleagues? Perhaps shadow a pupil for a day, go and see your form group or your learning family or a member of your year group, another member of your team. Plan out what you are going to do. My second piece of advice would be to leave work at work where you can. Now, this is my personal preference. This is what works for me. Now, I have a 4.5-year-old daughter at home. And prior to getting married and having children, I would take bits of work home and do bits there. But what I found was the lines between work and home then became a bit blurred. And I like to have the separation almost of church and state, as it were. So I do my work at work, I leave my work at work, and then I go home. Because what I found was I'd take a bag of work home, but I'd be tired, or I'd want to spend time with my family at home, and then all I could see out the corner of my eye was this bag of stuff that I needed to do and I wasn't doing. And then I'd feel guilty about it, then I'd feel tired, and I feel like I have to do this. So I started leaving work at work. I would do a to-do list. I'm a frenetic list writer. There's lists, you can't see because I've hidden it all out of view. There's lists literally everywhere of the different things I've got to do for my different roles. And I like to cross them off. Sometimes I'll put things on a list that I've actually already done, so I can cross it straight off. But there's a good question. I will come back to that in a moment.
Yeah, I've just seen that. Yeah.
What I do is I like to put things on the list that I've already done and cross that off, and then I add to my other list as I'm going through. What I would also suggest you do is that you work out whether you are a night owl or an early bird. So I am an early bird. I wake up early in the morning. I get into work early. I like to get in sort of an hour before the official start time, and my other colleagues that have arrived, because then I've got that time for me. I'm a head of faculty, as Beverly said, and I'm also the ITT and NQT lead. So other people need my time, and that I'm paid for that. That is my job, and I have no issue with that. But I do need my time to do my things for my students, and so I get in at a peaceful time where I can do that. And similarly, after everyone, someone has just dropped something off in the classroom that I'm sat in now, as you heard the disruption there. But generally speaking, I'm here till about 5:30 on an evening, and then work stays here. I take my laptop home because we have to, and for security reasons, but the work stays here.
I agree with you. So, I mean, I'll share some of what I did. I was a single parent when I was teaching, and so that involved having to leave work, pick the children up from childcare and go home and, you know, be mummy, check homework, feed my children and all those types of things. And so leaving work at work is very important. I too was a head of department, and that, as you mentioned, comes with its challenges. So what I'm hoping to get across here is that it doesn't matter where you are in your career, from, you know, I mean, I went from trainee to head of department. It's all about organization. I think planning and organizing, that's the key thing. And with managing the children, I would, you know, twice a week I'd go to the gym. So twice a week I'd say, right, I'll finish at 4 and I'll go to the gym, then I'll pick them up. And that way I made me time. I had that break between work and commencing family duties. You know, it's things like just really planning that out, and also having just very clear boundaries. So if you've got that PPA time and someone just wants to have a conversation with you, now conversations are important, but you've got to think about, when will I do the task that I've got this time for? So be really selfish about your time and how you're going to use it. That's important. Before I go into some of the other things that we can talk about, there's a question came in about maternity.
Yes.
So
the same thing would happen during your ECT years as if you were in your NQT year. It would pause for maternity. So whilst there is normally a time limit, you have 2 years after you get your QTS to do your NQT. In the case of maternity, it would pause and you pick up at the point when you return. And the school should be supportive of that. It's the same way that if you were doing any job role, it would pause and you return to your job role. You have the same rights as any other pregnant worker. Look at the Burgundy book, make sure your school follows it, or the rules and regulations, and that the maternity rights are in there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, maternity and having young children should not affect your success in a teaching career at all.
No, the other thing is that whilst Beverly and I are saying leave work at work, you shouldn't feel bad if you want to work at home and that's your choice to do so, then that's okay. How you choose to work is okay. What you shouldn't feel is the need or the pressure to have to work at home. Sometimes I like to get ahead of the week. So on a Sunday afternoon, because I can't abide certain sporting fixtures, mainly the Grand Prix, but my daughter likes watching the cars go round, and my husband is a massive Grand Prix fan. So they sit and watch that, and I take myself off to Starbucks and I'll do a couple of hours work in a Starbucks with my music on. I've got coffee, they do table service, it's brilliant. I can just sit there a couple of hours a piece, and I'm far more productive going and doing that than if I try and work at the kitchen table, because then you also get, and for those of you who are parents, you'll all be familiar with mum guilt. I'm sure Beverly will know what I'm talking about here. It never goes away. And if you're working at home and your child is saying, you're not going to play with me, mummy, it becomes, you then start to feel resentful of your work. And you've worked hard for your career. Don't forget that. We're all very well educated people. Like, you have the right to enjoy your job and enjoy your family. You shouldn't have to choose between the two. And so make it work for you. A person I would advise, even if you're not a mum, is to, or a dad, sorry, we're being very, very biased here. Look at The Organised Mum. She's on Instagram, she's on Twitter, she's got a book, got a website, but there's The Organised Mum method. And it's about how to keep on top of housework, family life, professional work life, all at the same time. Okay, so she's really useful.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. There's another question come in. How will the early career framework reform affect schools? So I guess that I'll let you answer that.
Well, in terms of school, the main, it is a really good question. The main impact it has is time and capacity for staff. So there should be a designated lead for the ECT. Now, this could be a senior leader. It might be one of your assistant head teachers or the deputy head. It might be, as it is in our case, a designated induction lead, and that is me. I am the ECF lead here. My job is to oversee that all the CPD is being delivered, that all the requirements are met, that all the ECTs are getting their entitlements. The biggest impact is that timetable time. So rather than the 85% that NQTs currently have, they have 80%. So you're looking at 18 hours, 17, 18 hours of a timetable rather than the full 20 that it would have had before. So whilst that doesn't seem like, oh, it's only 2 hours, from a timetabling perspective, that can have massive implications. Also, the ECTs are entitled to an expert colleague, which should be somebody who's an experienced teacher, either a middle leader or edging towards middle leadership, who has that wider knowledge and experience, should ideally be at least 3 or 4 years into teaching. They need a protected hour a week to meet with their early career colleague. So time is the biggest impact on schools. But what you can do, there is funding available from the DFE. There are 3 different, we're going down a rabbit hole, and this is in an upcoming article, we'll plug that one. But there are 3 different routes that you can choose when looking at the ECF. You can go all in to one of the accredited providers. They're all available via the early career framework. Tim, what I'll try and do is I'll send you the link so you can copy and paste it over. These providers have got the full training program for you. You have your mentor in school, but everything else is provided there. You can do a blended method, which is what we're doing here. So we're taking bits of what we want from the training materials that are out there already, and then adding our own context-specific information onto it. Or you can go or just make your own. I wouldn't advise anybody to just go and make their own unless they work for one of the accredited providers, because the work there is done for you, and it is a lot of work to put it all together. You should be, as part of the 3rd strand of learning, have subject-related CPD.
So that's a question that's just come in. Can you request for your own CPD as well? It's subject related,
Yep. So that you should be given, you should have a subject specific or a subject expert that you can talk to, and you should be having subject specific CPD as well as your ECT.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. We're talking about subject specific CPD. I think it might be a good time to talk about a few resources that are available from computing at school, and just to help you with what's out there. So I'm going to talk about a few computing specific resources, and Sarah, you might want to add a few others. I'll hold them up as we go through. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Hello World magazine. Hopefully everyone can see that, and that's a free magazine for educators. There's loads in there. You can write articles and submit articles too, because everyone has got something to share from their practice. I mean, this is the latest edition, and it features data. There's been previous ones that have featured things like computing and arts or cross-curricular computing. There's been focus on diversity and inclusion. So there's a whole load of different ones. So I highly recommend that you sign up and get that. There's also a little plug from myself, a book I wrote encouraging supporting new teachers into the profession. So that's Computer Science Teacher. It's available from all good bookshops, including the BCS Bookshop and Amazon. There's also this recently published one, 100 Ideas for Secondary Teachers, but I'd say it's for all teachers, really. There's lots in there. There's different strategies. You can find there's 20 questions, breaking the code, how computers work. There's loads of different things that you can extend your own knowledge also. So I think that's definitely worth it. For those in secondary schools, or even if you're in primary, this isn't for your learners, but this would be for extending your own knowledge. And in secondary schools, your learners should be able to access this also. This is the BCS Glossary of Computing, and this has got computing terms. So all the terminology that's out there is in here in a defined format. Okay, it goes without saying this isn't a plug for any specific awarding body, but just to get the textbook that's goes along with the specification for your awarding body. So that's for secondary colleagues. So as I said, not a plug for a specific awarding body. And for primary colleagues, there's a Barefoot Computing Resources, And there's a whole barefoot program. Definitely highly recommend you go to the Barefoot Computing website. Lots of unplugged activities, on cybersecurity, lots and lots of activities there. There's also the NCCE, which is a National Centre for Computing Education Resources. I think Tim is going to put the link in the comments window, and that's the Teach Computing curriculum. And the resources and lesson plans all the way from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 5. So there's everything you would need up on the teachcomputing.org website. There's lots and lots of there. And everything I've just shared with you, well, actually, apart from the text of books, the books are, you know, they cost, but most of the resources are free. So Barefoot Computing is free, Teach Computing is free, Hello World is free, but all of the books cost. I don't know if you'd like to add anything there.
You covered the vast majority of the ones I would have said myself. The only other one is CS for Fun.
Of course.
I like using these guys. So cs4fun.org, and you get actual, it's real life computer science. My particular favourite edition was the one with magic tricks, and I do those and bamboozle my students with my computing magic tricks. But what these do is they give a real world take on computer science, and so therefore ACE is an underrated word as well, Tim. It should be used more. CS for Fun really brings that real world context to your learning and your subject. So yes, Craig and Dave are one of my personal favourites as a YouTube channel. And Crash Course Computing. I like to watch those they're really short, sharp videos. So Craig and Dave are normally no more than 5 minutes long. And if you just want to brush up on your subject knowledge or get a quick overview of the spec, and they've got videos for every single element of every single GCSE and A-level specification out there. And then Crash Course Computing, she has slightly longer videos, but again, good for that basic introduction. If you are new to computer science, or there's a topic area that you want that little bit more information on. So she's got really good videos. So that's Crash Course Computing, and that's on YouTube.
Thank you, Sarah. What I'd also add there, the magic tricks are brilliant. You know, it's unplugged. You can talk to your learners, and if anyone is interested in seeing the palindromic stack magic trick in action, have a look at my IGTV. I did a recording of this a couple of weeks back, and it just shows, just with a set of playing cards, how you can start to introduce computational thinking and computing concepts into a lesson. And that's, you know, totally unplugged and lots of fun. And magic is something that definitely draws your learners in. So I would say have a couple of magic tricks up your sleeve.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it would really help with, even if you've got a classroom where the learners are disengaged, because I think we should touch on positive behavior, encouraging positive behavior. It's finding different ways to engage with your learners. So instead of going straight onto your computers at the start of the lesson, it could be that, you know, you have you would have your own bag of tricks, really, that you know, that you start to perfect as you go through your career and your teaching journey. And magic tricks are definitely one of those things that should be in your bag of tricks. So I'll also mention developing your own personal learning network, and this is, you know, following influencers on different social media platforms, knowing publications that you can access, going to the Computing at School Facebook sites, Facebook groups, going to the Computing at School forum. This is develop your personal learning network. I can't play that down. I need to play that up. Really, it's
we really do.
Important.
So yeah, I think I've been doing this account for just over a year now, and my network has grown exponentially. And I started this account because I needed to reach out during lockdown to the trainee teachers and the NQTs, and I needed an outlet for me because I felt a little bit helpless. And it's just grown and grown and grown. I've done various bits and pieces with CAS over the years. I was a master teacher in that incarnation, and I've always worked with computer science. but there's loads of different people that you can follow, not just within the computer science world. Obviously, we need to follow CAS. You need to follow me and Beverly. If you're not already following me and Beverly, then do it now. And Tim, because he's also awesome, king of the gifts, along with the CAS chat crew. So Tuesday evenings, we're going to be encroaching on their time soon. But later on this evening, 8 o'clock, head over to Twitter and join in the CAS chat there, because you learn so much. As an NQT or an ECT as you will be, follow Mr. T's NQT, who I didn't know he existed, so I think he thinks I'm trying to plagiarise his name, but he's over on Twitter, and he's also got a support network there for early career colleagues, and just grow your network. Follow EduTwitter, follow CAS chat, follow the hashtags, teachers of Instagram, trainee teachers of Instagram, ECTs of Instagram, and then you'll start to see, because the algorithm will pick it up, and we all know we need to learn. We all know about algorithms because
absolutely, yes.
This will start to feed in to what you like to see in your feed, and so depending on what you're in this for, if you're looking to network, so you make more computer science teacher friends, then the Facebook groups are always good. There's usually one for each exam board. The GCSE computer science one has been invaluable for sharing of resources. Be wary, make sure you're not using anything that people have paid for and uploaded, because it could put you in dodgy ground. The Creative iMedia group for me has been an absolute godsend, because we brought in Creative iMedia, and rather than having to make resources from scratch, they're already there. It saves you time, it saves you effort, and actually, whilst you might not be able to just pick it up and use it, you've got a basis to start. Don't reinvent the wheel. Generally speaking, it exists already. Talk to us, put questions out there. We will answer. Particularly, you'll find that Beverly and I will quite often tag each other in stories, so that our followers will see the questions and we get that more engagement. One of us might know the answer. And do the same on Twitter. Just tag people into what you're saying and build that network.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sarah. And just to come to a close, because we don't want to encroach too much on the football and the tennis time and everything else that's taking place.
On? Is it on?
For primary teachers, there's also at 10-minute teach on Instagram.
Oh, how could we forget her?
I know,
I'm so sorry, Bethan.
She's absolutely brilliant. And, there's a few, so go and have a look and grow your personal learning network. And there's loads more that we can continue talking about. I would just leave you with saying, balance your marking, balance your work-life balance, your home life. Stay on top of things. Don't let things get on top of you, because it becomes harder at that point. So, talk to your mentor, set aside you time, and you're doing well wherever you are in your journey. I'm really certain you're doing well, and stick with it. I taught for 14 years before I've come out and been doing other work in the education sector. So I'd say teaching is definitely a rewarding career. We're coming to an end. I don't know if you've got any closing words, Sarah, before I tie everything together.
I'm just gonna reuse one of my favorite all-time phrases, and obviously it's a way to shoehorn mine and Tim's podcast. That obviously,
yes.
CAS Inspire. Let's not have that. Not forget that. Sorry, but you can do anything. You are capable of doing anything, but you cannot do everything. You need to know when you need to stop, and you need to know when to ask for help. And there are people out there who can help you. So just ask for it. We've all been there. We've all done that. Just because people look like they're that glorious swan swimming across the lake, you never quite know what's going on under the surface. Frantic feet, they could be working their absolute hardest and flat out to stay afloat. So just remember, you are capable of doing absolutely anything, but you can't do everything. So please just be mindful of yourself. You are no good to anybody. Burnt out.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Thank you for that, Sarah. You just also mentioned something there, the CAS podcast. So
yeah, CAS Inspire.
Yeah, it's called CAS Inspire Stories. If you're on any podcasting platform, please do, sign up, subscribe to CAS Inspire Stories. Tim has just popped it into the comments window. and listen to a few inspirational educators such as Sarah, and hear about their journeys into teaching. Thank you everyone so much for joining us this afternoon. Really, really appreciate it. There are more sessions in the CAS virtual showcase. There's another one tomorrow on Instagram Live, and there are also some in webinar format. The showcase will come to a close on Friday, and then afterward, if you've missed anything, it will be on the CAS YouTube channel, and this will be up on IGTV shortly later on this evening once Tim has downloaded it. So thank you so much for joining us. Keep the conversation going, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.